really amazing speaker who is Jason Boyle. Some of you third years may know him already because we had Jason at our BY30 event 2 years ago, and he was talking about architecture and robotics and 3D printing and these alternative ways of construction, which was really interesting. We had so many questions and great discussions, so I'm really sure that this will be something in a similar spirit. Some of you may know Jason from social media. He is growing very quickly across every single platform. He is also working on 3 big UK government nuclear projects, and he is leading and managing teams around that. He was also having a lecture in Italy, as well as in Manchester School of Architecture, and he's member of RIBA Northwest, as well as Manchester Society of Architects. In 2017, Jason became the youngest fellow of Royal Institute of British Architects, and in 2018 he was awarded a fellowship of the Royal Society of Artists. And all of these actions started something like a movement in him that he should start being a mentor and teaching people how to be better, how to learn new things, how to be more productive. So he set up his own mentoring company, and he was a mentor for many successful architects, including one recent fellow of RIBA. So he will share you loads of philosophy about mentoring, how to be efficient, how to be productive, and I'm really sure you will enjoy hearing from him every single detail and everything that he can offer. And later we can have loads of questions and discussion. So Jason, the floor is yours, and everyone enjoy this event.
Thank you. It's a shame I can't physically be with you all, and a shame I can't see you as well. So yeah, it's fairly tricky. So yeah, the title of this session, this lecture, and thank you, Lucas, for that really lovely introduction. I appreciate that. Is effective mentoring. So that's it's a really important thing to say. Effective mentoring. So a little bit about me. I think I've got a click. So I'm an architect working in the nuclear industry, as Lucas has said. My background. I'm just going to touch on that a little bit more. I'm going to cover what is mentoring, who is mentor and who is mentee, and what can a student do to find a mentor, how to approach an architect for mentoring, which I think is probably a question for you all, and what are all the responsibilities of a mentee, and then what do mentors value about the mentee as well. And then just the last 4 is what should a good mentee be like? These are the questions that people have sent in. And why is mentoring a good plan during COVID? And then I'm just going to briefly touch on the RIBA mentoring scheme and then offer some conclusions. So, okay, let's go. So my background, I've been an architect for 21 years, fellow in 2018 of the RIBA and the RSA in 2019. Probably the reason why I got a fellowship is because I brought BIM into the nuclear industry back in 2011 and was invited to set up BIM for nuclear, and then got involved with the government on BIM for clients, with the government there, and pushed that into projects which range from 600 million to around the billion mark. So you can have a real impact with using this technology in them projects. So yes, I'm a member of the RIBA Northwest Committee currently, and just been elected to council member of the MSA. And the title the RIBA gave me is the UK Ambassador for Civil Infrastructure. But I really want to talk today about my real passion, which is mentoring. And so far I've mentored 18 people successfully. So where do I start? What is mentoring? So this session really is my view of what I believe mentoring is. So I'm just going to give you a short history of who was the first mentor. I think it's always best to start with a historical context. So mentor, so in Greek mythology, Odysseus of Ithaca, I'm not really good at pronouncing that, went to fight in the Trojan War, and he entrusted the care of his son Telemachus to an older and wiser friend who was called Mentor. Telemachus and Mentor developed a strong relationship built on the foundations of guidance and support. And I've highlighted them in red there because I think that is pretty critical. The word mentor has become synonymous with teacher, counselor, coach, facilitator, motivator, and also friend. However, Athena, goddess of war and patroness, she was a patron of the arts and industry, assumes the form of mentor and accompanies Telemachus on his quest to search for his father. This is from legends. History and legends record the deeds of princes and kings, but each of us have the birthright to actualize our potential. Through their deeds and work, mentors help us move towards that actualization. So that is a quote. Now, this question was posed by Lyra Lewis, who I actually mentored to become an RIBF fellow. And we actually did an article together where she interviewed me and asked who is the mentor and who is the mentee. So that's on LinkedIn if you'd like to find some more information. I just share a quote from what I said. Your goals, no matter how colossal and overwhelming they seem to be, will be predominantly achieved through working smarter, not harder. And that's my belief. So, my view of mentoring. So mentoring is a two-way relationship, mutually formed on a principle of equality and respect. The mentor must be able to ask questions of the mentee, but then also truly listen when they respond, which is a skill in itself. If mentoring is built on this basic foundation, then over-mentorship can be avoided. And getting the right balance is a challenge most mentors face. But it can be achieved by seeking feedback from the mentee. Giving a structure to the mentoring relationship is therefore critical and can consist of goal tracking, holding a mentee to account when the goals are not met. And this is really important, I think. The emphasis should always be on expectations, making sure they are clear and established at the outset. How many times have we had that in university where it's not really communicated very clearly and effectively? So, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. So what can a student do to find a mentor, it should be, sorry. So research those you respect the most. See if they share common values with yourself. So it could be a professional practice that you really admire and respect, and their career path that they've gone on. You know, and you can do this through research, using social media, and maybe working with them. It could be in the office. So it could be you're working in an office and you think, wow, that person is really talented, really is a go-getter, leading a practice. You know, I want to be like that person. You could ask them for mentoring. That seems to be the most obvious way. And then there's also the RIBA mentoring scheme, which does a similar thing, where architectural students that should read sign up to receive the mentees. So, how to approach an architect for mentoring? Yes, so I just thought I'd put it there. Most architects I've met have an ego, so exploit that. So that could be, you know, it's like anyone who's, you know, if you want to get something from them, you'll ask nicely and be courteous and say, look, I really respect what you do. I would love to be mentored by you. That's kind of what I mean there. Explore your existing connections. And if this work And if this is at work, you can make new ones. This doesn't work. So for example, LinkedIn, and now is the new app that everyone is talking about, which I'm in, called Clubhouse. You can find a video that I've done about this if you don't know what Clubhouse is. So many architects are on social media. You can approach them directly this way, or you can email and call the offices. You could even go the old school way and just write a letter explaining why you want to be mentored by them and see if this works. And this has happened to myself. But I just want you to remember, build your own brand and find your voice and be seen. And that can be across social media, whether you're in university or when you're back at, we're back in public. I think it's really important that you build your own brand and find out who you are. So it's all in the journey. And what are the responsibilities of the mentee? What makes a good mentee, and what should a mentee be like? So I've tried to sum this up in just a few words. So a good mentee will have mutual respect, obviously, for the mentor. They will show up on time. I can't tell you how many times that I've made appointments with people and they're 5 to 10 minutes late. I don't work like that. So think about, it's really important that you do show up, and you show up on time. Listen, and that goes for mentor and mentee. Learn, you should be there to learn something. Share each other's experiences, and reflect on that after the mentoring session. I think it's a great thing to really reflect on what you've discussed and what the ideas that you may have explored within that session. And most importantly is to take action. So within them sessions that you have with a mentor, that you agree a plan and you take action, and your mentor will hold you to account. So you will be made to be accountable. And I think that's a great thing for all of us to do. So benefits of having a mentor. So every great achiever is inspired by a great mentor. Now, I believe in holistic mentoring because it offers a supportive, guided process that helps individuals understand life from a different perspective. So Freddie Laker, who mentored who? Well, yes, Richard Branson. And author Mary Angelou mentored who? Oprah Winfrey. So all these really big people have had a mentor at some point in their life. And what I say is, you can choose to be happy. If you are not successful in your life outside of work, how can you truly be successful in your work? And this is why it's so important that you take a holistic approach with any mentoring. You can't separate the two. So have you ever wondered why some people are successful and others are not? Well, you can learn to become successful by becoming more effective. So how good are you at listening? Now, this is where, if you were in the audience, I could ask each of you to give me a response, but it's a really important thing, because listening is learned first, used the most, and taught the least. So as you can see, speaking's learned the second, used the next most, and then taught the next least. And then you learn reading. So it's learned the third, used the next least, and then taught the next most. And then it's writing down at the bottom, is learned the fourth and used the least and taught the most. So writing's taught the most. So assumptions. So listening, so I did have a listening exercise. If we were face to face, in a public thing, I could have got you to do an exercise conscious of time, but essentially, if you don't listen, you can often make the wrong assumption. So it's one of the most important skills you can have. How well you listen has a major impact on your job effectiveness and on the quality of your relationships with others. For instance, we listen to obtain information, we listen to understand, we listen for enjoyment, and we listen to learn. Now, when I do this exercise on listening, it comes out with an interesting fact. And given all the listening that we do, you would think that we would be good at it. In fact, most of us are not. And research suggests that we only remember between 25% and 50% of what we hear. I won't read the rest of it, but essentially when I do the test with people about listening, most people out of the 15 questions get round about 5 to 7 things correct. So it just shows you it's kind of true. So how you can improve your listening skills? Well, I'll add to this, be present. When you're listening, make sure you actually listen and focus. Take notes, repeat what you've heard back. So what I said, be present and do not make assumptions, clarify. So I'm just going to quickly take you through, because I'm conscious of the time, through the pillars of success. And apologies, this is from a presentation I did in Rome, so you're going to see lots of pictures of Rome, but you may spot Manchester if you pay attention. So 12 Pillars is a great book I would recommend getting. It's by Jim Rohn and Chris Wider. It's called The Pillars of Success. So personal success. So success comes when you develop yourself beyond where you currently are. You read books, attend seminars, speaking engagements, study the best people, and implement and integrate what you've learned. And these points remind me of the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. To get different results, you've got to change what you're doing. The only way things are going to change for you is when you change. This is called personal development. Total well-being. This is pillar 2. The pillar is 3-dimensional health. The 3 dimensions are the body, physical, soul, our intellect, emotions, and will. The spirit, part of us that transcends this world. The spirit is your core, the soul is your next layer, and the body is the outer layer. So you need to work on all 3. And this is what is total well-being. The gift of relationships. So pillar 3, relationships represent the most beautiful highs and the most tormented lows of life. Relationships are the pillars, the backbone of our existence. And this pillar explains that relationships are like a garden. You have to cultivate them. Once you get them up and running, the maintenance to keep them growing is much easier. You can see the analogy. Time, effort, and imagination must be summoned constantly to keep any relationship flourishing and growing. People say that money that makes the world go round, but Rohn believes that relationships are what make the world go around, because things get done through people. So achieve your goals, which is pillar 4, and I've heard and read many times that you should write your goals down. And this is one thing I believe. If you have goals, write them down. And then you've got a chance that they will turn into reality. A side benefit of achieving your goals is that you become a better person. And the major reason for setting a goal is for what it makes of you to accomplish it. Something I learned from someone elsewhere is that plans will change, but your goals will stay the same. A good approach for checking your progress is plan, do, check, adjust. The proper use of time. Yes, pillar 5, these are 2 types of pain. There are 2 types of pain, the pain of discipline, which weighs only ounces, and the pain of regret, which weighs tons. Don't procrastinate. The end of your life will come sooner than you expect. Don't wait until it's too late. Remember that when you spend a day, you have one less day to spend, so spend each day wisely. And surround yourself with the best people. This is
about who was mentoring you, and then we join back to the room of questions. Yeah,
Okay.
if that's okay. So Rana, your turn.
Hi. So, because obviously, like, in a mentoring scheme, like, us as mentees, we get advice, right, from you, mentors, and like, we gain experience from like knowing you, a practitioner, and everything like that. But, from your side as a mentor, what do you feel like? Why are you doing this mentoring? I'm just interested in that.
Yeah, why do I mentor?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very good question. Again, it's I mean, I personally, everyone has their own reasons, but I actually did it because the RIBA actually asked me, what do you want to do now you've got fellowship? And I had a long kind of think about this, and my passion is helping people. So helping people in the sense that architecture is very difficult. It's a very difficult subject. Just succeeding and becoming an architect in itself is hard enough. Never mind, going into practice and delivering successful buildings. So I saw there was a sort of gap in the market for having someone who could mentor them. And I just did it out of kind of passion for helping people, because I could see that it was needed. And other people might have other reasons, but they were purely my reasons. And I've mentored people for 3 years now. So that's essentially why I do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the question you brought up, Jason, was really good, like who was mentoring you. And I would also ask, did you decide to find a mentor, or someone approach you that someone can be your mentor?
Yeah, I think that again, it's I wanted a mentor, so I searched out a mentor, and I think that's the best way. So if you it's about someone you look up to, I guess it could be, someone you see that you could really learn from, and why not find a mentor, because they've gone through their own struggles, they've experienced things along the way, and if you can learn anything off them to capitalize on that, and so you don't make the same mistakes, then and some habits, success habits, if you can learn some of them and put them into practice, you're just going to succeed quicker than you would without having one. I think the best thing a mentor does is hold you to account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how was it with you then? Like, who was mentoring you, or did you? What was the reason behind you deciding to finding a mentor?
So because I could see that I needed to get there faster. I needed to succeed faster, and the guy who mentored me was a guy called Tony Wilson. So he's owned Hacienda, New Order, and he was a client in the office when I was a very young architect. So we had him as a client, and what a guy! If you know anything about Tony Wilson, he's so passionate, he's so effective, he was so successful. Had his own disasters, which is always good, I think, if a mentor, makes mistakes and learn from them. And things happened, he lost the Hacienda, but he bounced back and he was successful again. And I always think that's a good thing to look at. Someone who's failed and then come back to be successful again. So I was mentored by him in the Midland Hotel in Manchester over coffee once a week.
That's nice. Thank you. Diana, you had also a question. Feel free to ask.
Yeah, hello. I actually have two questions. My first question is, so given the uncertain times, sorry, my dog knocked out my some bottles. I'm so sorry. So since we live in so uncertain times with Brexit and with the pandemic, which changed architecture in general, not just practice, but uni as well, I think most people, especially not just international students, but EU students as well, and maybe even British students, don't have opportunities on an international to practice on an international plan. And I feel like we don't really get enough information from our uni on how to approach certain things. Like, can you apply to work abroad? Can you maybe do your part one practice and then come back for a master's in the UK? And diplomas are not automatically recognized in the EU anymore, and stuff like that. How do you, as a mentor, approach that? How do you what do you do exactly when it comes to your mentees when they raise questions like that?
Yeah, I've had a situation whereby someone from Manchester University, in fact, she was from Egypt. She's called Donya, and she left Manchester University after a degree, and she found me as a mentor. And when she'd gone back to Egypt, she couldn't find Part 1 experience, and so I helped her by approaching a couple of practices and saying, look, got this really talented, student from Manchester, passionate about architecture, but the issue is the visa. What visa? The study kind of visa and work visa. And I kind of broke it down to see how simple these visas can be. If you come into work in the UK for a year and for your experience, or even 2 years, you actually managed to stay for 2 years. And the practice then realized it wasn't a really big cost. It was a fairly simple process, and it didn't take very much time. So I kind of had to step in, and I just would like to say, if there's practices out there who are worried about employing an international student, it's a very simple process. So I think the person who could be an international student could educate the practice and have a conversation with them. But also, people like myself are trying to do that as well. It should be, the university should step in as well and explain to the practices, that sort of process. Because I found the experience very straightforward, and so did the practice that employed Donya. Hopefully that answers your question.
It does, thank you. And my second question is, unis stress a lot about social responsibility when building, and environmental aspects as well. And what is your approach when it comes to that, or the practices approach in general? Because theoretically we are being raised awareness about, but we don't really know how that comes into practice.
Sorry, you're right. You're talking about practice in general, about environmental issues.
Yeah, and more like social responsibility, because we are given the theoretical part of it in uni, but I don't know how that is actually put into practice when it comes to practice life.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak for my own company that I work to, where we have that sort of that I guess it's called that culture. So I'd probably rephrase it to have that well-being culture, that social responsibility within the office. I think it's quite tricky in small practices, but it tends to be very much a thing that's managed in larger companies or intermediate practices, and that's generally communicated by that culture that is created in the office. I don't know whether that I'm answering it properly, but it just tends to be through awareness, through training, practical training, and that's generally how it's done. But I'd also say that a lot of practices, large practices and medium-sized practices, have mentoring schemes within their office. you know, as a way to check on the progress of the individual. So you're often assigned one, and I think you've just got to hope that the person that you were assigned a mentor is the right fit for you, because it can get quite tricky, I think, if that relationship's not working out and that's someone that's employed by the practice, if you understand what I mean. So I think that's the best way I can answer it, really.
Okay, thank you.
Is anyone else having any other questions? Yeah, Audrey has one question.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question. Hi, thank you for sharing. So you've talked a bit about what you've learned and gained from your own experience as a mentee in the past, but in your 3 years of mentoring all these clients, is there a moment that sort of stands out to you or something really valuable that maybe you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would actually. That's a great question. Yeah, so one of the people I've been mentoring she's finished her Part 1 degree, and she was working for a practice. I'm not going to name the practice, but she was put on furlough when the coronavirus hit last year, and we you know, through our mentoring, we said, well, there could be a risk here that when furlough ends, that, you know, I could be made redundant. So I said, well, why let's put a plan in place for if this happens. So I think it's always best to be prepared. And she had, obviously, on furlough, you're not working, and you shouldn't be working. And so she started painting. Her passion was doing portraits of people. And she was sharing some of her work with me. And I just thought it was really amazing, this work. And I said, look, you should turn this into a business. And this is what I'm trying to communicate about people. I like working with people who just do these things. So the next minute is she set up a website. She's created this these great portraits, and we set about painting famous architects. So actually approaching the architects and painting their portraits and charging them money for it, which they paid. And I contacted the RRBA Journal to see if we could do an article on Colleen, and they were like unsure at first. I think they just wanted to understand things a bit better. And it went quiet for probably a month or two. And then David Adjei won RRBA Gold Medal this year. And they approached Colleen directly, copied me in, and they said, look, would you like to paint his portrait? And it's in the RRBA Journal. So it's fantastic that a Part 1 architectural graduate has painted the RRBA Gold Medal winner, and she's a black student of architect, and he's black as well. And I just thought it was just the perfect fit for someone who's training to be an architect, has painted the portrait, and it's been in the RRBA Journal. It's incredible.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was a very interesting story. Very inspiring that although you may not be successful in architecture, there are always ways how you can find the things you love to do and maybe successful in it. Any other questions, anyone? We have wonderful conversation here, so let's make it even better. Okay. I guess everything was very clear for everyone. Oh yeah, Diana has one more question.
Yes, sorry, just one more, maybe a simpler one this time. You mentioned about how architecture is such a demanding course. Was there ever a time when you felt you couldn't do it anymore? You felt like giving up, and what exactly changed your mind, if that's the case?
Yeah, Yeah, there was. So when I was doing my part two, my final year of my part two, I was assigned a lecturer who I just did not get on with. Tried to work with that person, and I was getting to the point where I was kind of burnt out because I had to keep revising designs. I lost all my confidence, which I had a lot of confidence because I was doing so well. And it just shows you how the one relationship can change the course of your your journey in architecture. So what I did, I'm not advising this, for everyone, but this is just what I did. I kind of just blocked off all contact with this lecturer. I made sure that I found the people who would come, the visiting lecturers, the part-time lecturers, and sought their advice and work through the last year with just using the part-time tutors. I'm not advocating this, by the way. This is just what happened to me. And I just made sure I covered everything. I covered everything that was asked of me on that year. And I knew that if I did that, they wouldn't be able to fail me. And I think the great thing about the courses in architecture, you have an external examiner coming in as well. So you've got that secondary check. So yeah, that's what I did. And it was a good question that you actually asked. Yeah, it made me reflect on my experiences. And we've got Lucy as well.
Yeah.
Hi, Lucy.
Hi, yeah. I feel like a lot of the mentoring out there is directed at people who are studying architecture still. But as somebody who's kind of mid-career, so I'm like a senior architect now, have you got any advice for somebody who's at that stage and approaching people?
Yeah, believe it or not, most of my clients are people who've got their own practices, who are actually, some have got 10, 15 years experience. Some are working in practices like Foster's. And yeah, I think wherever you are, at whatever stage in your life, having someone who you can bounce ideas off, and you might have picked up some bad habits along the way. You might not be able to see things quite clearly. So I think the advice of someone else who doesn't know you, is completely honest with you, is fantastic. So yes, Lucy, to ask your question, that they're the main people I study. I think I work with students just as a kind of pro bono thing. Yeah, it's really challenging out there, which is why I've written articles on it on LinkedIn. I've done YouTube videos on the culture within architecture, and that's what I'm trying to do with joining the MSA, which is one of the largest societies of architecture in the world. So I can try and have some influence there.
Great.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Are there any more questions, or everything was clear and good? Okay. At the end, is there a chance you could give us like a general summary message for everyone in order to stay productive and motivated about what we do?
Yeah, I can give you some recommendations, which I would give you if I was mentoring you. It's a great book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. So that's a really fantastic book, and it shows you how you can stack habits. So, for example, if you might wake up on a morning and make your bed, as everyone should do, but then you attach a habit that you haven't got already with that. So every time you do something that you wish you would do every day, you attach a new thing that you haven't done that you need to do. It might be doing press ups or whatever. So it's called habit stacking, and that's something. I'd also helps with the lack of procrastination is the 5-second rule. So if you think it, you count to 5, and then you do it.
That sounds really good.
Well, that works for me. So if you're putting off a phone call, as soon as it's come into your head, oh, I'm putting off that phone call, right? I call now, and you just count to 5 and do it.
Okay, that's great. That's a great thing. I'll give it a try, definitely.
Okay. And please, I'd just like to say, you know, if any of you have got an iPhone, please come into Clubhouse and have a conversation. I'm in there probably every evening at some point. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm hoping people are going to be joining. So yeah, I'll be covering lots of different topics and more mentoring topics as well on specific areas.
Yeah, like definitely I've seen these videos and they're really good. Loads of information in it, loads of helpful tips. So definitely click the subscribe button, like, comment, and keep connected with everyone around so you have loads of contacts for later. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Jason, especially for really great information you gave us, great presentation, and all the tips you brought up. It was very good. And yeah, have a great evening and stay safe in this tough time.
Thank you.